Is it now or never for Karen Weekly's Lady Vol softball team as they get ready for the 2025-26 season? Carlin Pickens in the circle. Is this their chance to finally win it all, maybe in their 10th trip, Paige Dower, alongside Jimmy Himes?
It gives me confidence they can get back to the Women's College World Series. Too many things can happen when you get there that could go
Yes.
wrong. You had arguably the greatest pitcher in the history of softball in Monica Abbott, and you didn't win it all. So it's tough. It's hard. But I do like the nucleus of this team. I like Karen Weekly as a coach. I'm very confident they'll have an outstanding year. I feel good about them getting back to the College World Series. But beyond that, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, anything could happen.
Well, and here's the thing, too. We don't know the complete look of their roster yet
Sure.
because there could be transfer portal. They picked up some. They're going to lose some. Who's coming back? Is somebody going to come in and offer $1 million or $2 million to try to pry somebody away?
Sure.
We got a Texas Tech pitcher that's making $1 million a year. They feel like it's a good investment because she got Texas Tech to the Women's College World Series. So do others look at that and say, maybe I should make some offers to, I don't know, maybe the National Pitcher of the Year
Yeah.
and try to pry her away? I don't think Carlin Pickens is going anywhere, but I've learned in college sports now I can't be surprised with anything.
Yeah, because I think when you look to their College World Series run and you talk about anything can happen, you could just go to their first game where you thought for 8.5 innings that they were going to be the team to upset Oklahoma in the first game, and then they just walk it off against the Lady Vols, and maybe because of the damage that was done in the inning, maybe regardless of what Tennessee could do on offense, they still would have lost that game. But you'd have to think maybe if they had a bit more activity with their bats, Carlin maybe wouldn't have been in that position, or maybe if coaching went a little differently in that game and you don't, hold Laura Mueller, who's rounding third and feels like she's halfway down before you tell her to go back to third instead of sending her home. So do you think maybe the offense wasn't as complimentary to what the pitching staff or what Carlin Pickens could do, and that's maybe what held them back?
Well, I think that there were a number of games during the regular season where you could certainly make that argument.
Yeah.
Once you get into the Women's College World Series, one pitcher can just completely shut you down, and that one pitcher could pitch every game in the
That's
College
how it was
World
against
Series.
Texas.
So
Yeah.
so that it does help to have some depth, because that pitcher who may try to pitch every game, if they're a little bit off and you got somebody to come back with. I mean, Texas started a backup pitcher.
And she still shut them
Shut
down.
them down.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes Tennessee's bats would go silent. The other thing, when you've got a Carlin Pickens, she lost at least 5, maybe 6 games where she did not allow an earned run. How does that happen? I bet
You're
they led the
asking me.
nation. They led the nation in most losses without giving up an earned run. She's a phenomenal pitcher. So that she is the type pitcher that can carry you to a World Series and win it. But she needs help. She can't do it alone. She's got to have defense. She's got to have some run support. So we'll see if they can get there. You mentioned they lose 5 seniors and some very productive players. When I look at the recruiting that Tennessee has done in softball, they will do a pretty good job of filling those holes. And they've already done it by bringing in a couple from Boise State.
Right.
You got a center fielder, you got a first baseman that will replace 2 that Tennessee's going to lose. So I think they will be capable of doing that. I would like to see how the roster fills out, and I'd like to see if they can keep some of their key players as opposed to somebody trying to steal one away through NIL money or revenue sharing money, whichever one you want to pick.
Karen Wee's like, we're not a one-pitcher team. We're not a one-arm team. But for the most part in the World Series, you ended up being that way. And sometimes that could play to your advantage. It helped Texas Tech. That's how softball used to be, where you really only had one pitcher and they'd pitch all your weekend games. But as the game evolves, is it really important to have 2 strong pitchers?
Yes, and there's no better example than just what happened in the Women's College World Series. Who won it? Texas.
Yeah.
And they had their number 2 pitcher shut down Tennessee, as we just talked about. Texas Tech's $1 million pitcher had her worst game against Texas in the final. She gave up, 6 runs?
Yeah.
And so she wasn't on. And when that happens, you need to have somebody else you can go to. Not everybody is going to have a great outing on the mound, regardless of how great you are as a pitcher.
Happened to Liam Doyle from time to time,
It did. So when you look at Carlin Pickens, I understand you've got an ace that's really good and you want to stick with
And
him.
she's a generational talent, yes.
She is. But now and then, maybe she gets a little bit tired, or maybe this particular opponent is really good at hitting a rise ball, And that's what Pickens is throwing. And so maybe you need to go with somebody that throws a drop ball, just as an example, which is what Texas' number 2 pitcher did against Tennessee. So,
Yes.
yeah, you need a number 2. It certainly doesn't help to have a number 3 as well.
No.
Because if you've got that trust in somebody, then there are opportunities along the way to rest your ace pitcher.
Well, and that's what made Tennessee, and what was so surprising that I think maybe that was the year where they made it to the semifinals the last time, is when they had those 3 arms, and you had an Ashley Rogers, a Peyton Gottschall, and you had a freshman and Carlin Pickens. So it does go a long way to have multiple arms. Now, sometimes you can have a Carlin Pickens who really develops, puts on 20 or so pounds, and can throw the fastest pitch in college softball history, and that can take you really far. But sometimes you'll get certain matchups where having a couple other developed arms proves to be the difference maker.
Yes, and I think that Tennessee has that. I think that is it Newer, the other pitcher?
Aaron, yeah.
I think she's got some potential. I watched her pitch several games where she showed she has some ability, and she's young. So
yeah, a freshman, yeah.
You would figure she's going to get better, right? So as she improves, the pitching staff improves.
Yeah.
So I think they have the pitching staff, as long as they can keep it together. As long as they keep that staff together, I think they have the pitching staff that's good enough. It may be, I don't know what everybody else has, but it's hard for me to imagine there will be a pitching staff in the country better than what Tennessee can have.
When you look to maybe how they get to the finals, at least, maybe the title will always evade the Lady Vols, or maybe it'll take a few more years before it happens. But I think for Tennessee to make it to the finals, advance past the semifinals, is in what they're doing in the transfer portal. You mentioned the teammates that they get out of Boise State, and Sophia Knight and Mackenzie Butt. It's your center fielder and first baseman, respectfully. I think what they also can do at the plate will be huge for Tennessee in complementing what the pitching staff does, because you can't expect Carlin Pickens to throw a perfect game every single time.
No, you can't. And so every now and then, one of the downfalls for the Lady Vols was the bats would go silent in particular games.
Yeah.
And it happened to the baseball team as well at Tennessee.
It sure did, yeah.
You've got to be able to overcome that. And you got to figure out a way when the bats are silent, you got to still be able to scrape around 2 or 3 runs somehow, some way. And with a pitcher as good as Pickens and a staff as good as Tennessee's, sometimes that's enough. It was almost enough against Oklahoma.
Yes.
So you got to be able to do that. And so I think it's very important to make sure that some of your additions, it's hard to say your lineup 1 to 9 is going to be, you're going to have a difficult out every one of those.
Right.
But if you can have 8 tough outs in a lineup, then that certainly enhances the chances of you not having these slumps or games where you get 2 hits and no runs. You got to avoid that.
Yeah.
Having said that, I know you're going to be facing some great pitching, because the further you go, the greater the pitching you will see. So that's why I think they need to add some very productive bats.
So this is what Karen Weekly said about Sophia Knight. So she was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year, so you're getting a good one out of her. She says Sophia is fast, a dynamic offensive threat. She will remind fans of the great speed players we've had over the years at Tennessee. More importantly, she's a really good person, shares our culture mission, and she says she's excited to welcome her in. So she's fast, she's an offensive threat. I think that's exactly what we were talking about and exactly what you need.
Kiki Malloy.
Yes.
If she can
Precisely.
just do that.
I know. If you could just be a Kiki or a Riley West, you'd be fine. And then as far as Mackenzie, she too was the Freshman of the Year, and she led the team in home runs with 22 and had 77 RBIs. So you talk about finding ways to get runs across the plate, and I think Mackenzie Butt has shown she can do that.
I think those are 2 great additions for Tennessee, and those are plug-and-play type players you would expect. So, and given some of the returners that they have that are very productive, given the improvement that they typically show among their players, I think Tennessee's got a chance to have a great season. But define great. Does that mean you have to win the Women's College World Series, or just get
Depends
there?
who you ask.
When you've been there 9 times,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, when are you going to finally win one of these things?
It's all the questions Arkansas is getting. I'm like, you're making your 12th appearance to the College World Series for the men. Is this the year you finally win it? They were runners up in the 18 year. So, yeah, I mean, it is a valid question, and I'm sure it's incredibly frustrating for them. Where like you think you have all the pieces and you're knocking on the door, but just can't kick it down.
It's the only box that Karen Weekly, and I'm going to add Ralph in there because he was there for a long time. That's the only box they haven't checked it to. I mean, they went to Texas and won the series.
Yeah, same with
Oklahoma. They went to
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma and won the series.
Both of them first times for a Lady Vol program to go on the road and get ranked 1 and 2 win.
One of them was a 4-time defending champion, national champion, and one of them just won the national championship.
Yeah.
So you were really close this year, very close. And I think you're going to be close next year. So you'll be knocking on the door. Can you kick it in?
Hello, we're here. Maybe it'll be a bit more forceful with that. But yeah, definitely exciting stuff to happen for the Lady Vols here in the offseason, what they do in the transfer portal. So we'll make sure to keep you updated on all of that news that's coming up. And how about Sakai Ziegler? Is he going to be somebody that can help knock down the door for Tennessee? We'll talk about that later this week.